finally, after some absolutely horrific times of trying to rebuild everything and get working, I was with the girls on my own, and I decided that I'd go and have a conversation with John after he'd asked me earlier, you know, would you like to see me again, da, 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 da. And I said, no, not then. And now I know why too, because I did say, okay, well, let's catch up. And we went to a Chinese restaurant in Robina. And John sat down and just said, this is the first time I'd seen him since all of this. And he just said, don't talk about money. I didn't even know where that came from. But it sounded like it was Judy in the background or something, had to have presumptions, and he was really like not very nice at all, arrogant, rude, hurtful. And he proceeded to sit down and tell me that my reputation was ruined. He said, your reputation's fucked. You know, you'll have to take years and years to rebuild it. And I thought to myself, my reputation was brilliant until I got involved with him. Anyway, he then proceeded to tell me I wasn't really a talent, and also, you know, really quite horrible, ruthless, nasty things, just disregarding, arrogant, rude. And he just tore strips off me like a true narcissist. He really went for it over this lunch. And at the end of the lunch, I had $20 in my pocket, and I put it in for the tip with this lovely Chinese lady at the restaurant, little restaurant there at Robina. And I put it in the jar, you know, and he took it out and said, oh, no, and he put it in his top pocket. So he didn't want to tip the lady. I put $20 in to tip her. And he just took it back and put it in his top pocket. And I thought, what sort of person are you? Anyway, I went away from that lunch and I went around the corner, and he told me I was a worthless this, that, like true narcissistic, which I didn't understand narcissism, the study of personality disorders before this, and quite frankly, this is what really brought a lot of things to life. And then I started really studying it with my psychologist and the people that were healing me from the abuse and the bullying, and me and my girls, Tammy, Amy and Emily Hembrow, because it affected them. One night we had a roast beef thrown in a window, smashed a window. We believe that was Jeremy Dunn, who was working for John. There would have been no one else who knew where we were living, and this was right in the middle of the turmoil. They were trying to shut me down. Anyway, and they knew I was super vulnerable. You know, like the things he said, you'll have to fuck off to Sydney, you know, you got no money, you know. You can't fight me in the courts, it'll cost you $500,000 fucking dollars, and, you know, and you've got nothing, so you're fucked. What an attitude. This is a guy who's just stolen all our work, misled 20, 30 people. And I realised later on, particularly recently, because he was on the front page of the newspaper, and of course, he pops up there as uncle to Tammy Hembrow. Now, Tammy hasn't even talked to him. And here we are, the Hembrow name. Mum and Dad would just be horrified of what John and Judy did, horrified of their behaviour, horrified with everything. And spiritually, I believe right now they want me to hold them accountable so that John may be able to heal from the absolute disgusting, horrible ways. Anyway, this is all part of the issues that are on board. Another one was when they didn't pay me and Tammy had to go to hospital. And I got her into the hospital at 1 o'clock in the morning. She had a big infection behind her eye. And I'm Mr. Mum at the time, of course. And I'm working and I'm doing all this other stuff. And he owed me $180,000. It's in the contracts, in the paperwork. And he didn't pay me, you know, to start with. And I'd been struggling before that. And I'd finally done the deal. And he just didn't pay me. So I wanted to keep Tammy and John Flynn for one night. But it was going to cost $1,000, so I had to move her at 2 o'clock in the morning. They said if I don't have her in there, she might lose her sight to the side. So I've got Tammy and John Flynn, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, I spoke to John. I said, John, you haven't paid me yet, and I'd just like to I just want I need $1,000 just so I can keep her in the hospital overnight and I'll monitor her and I don't have to move her from John Flynn. And he hadn't paid me, and I asked him, and it was quite a family sort of thing. And again, he said no. You have to fucking take her somewhere else. He said no. He just didn't do it, didn't offer it, wouldn't do it. And so I just went up there at 2 o'clock in the morning and put Tammy over my shoulders, and everyone at John Flynn was disgusted because they witnessed what he'd said and what he didn't do. And me personally, I wouldn't know, no enemy would do that, let alone here's my little darling Tammy. As far as the Hembro name is concerned, and Judy wears that name, Craig wears that name, Nigel wears that name, and Dale wears that name, Hembro, which comes from my father. It's an absolute disgrace. Mum and Dad have been turning in their graves. I just get this spiritual. So Mum and Dad were lovely, the most beautiful people. They had dreams and things for me, which John just totally annihilated. It must have been jealousies and a lot of psychological stuff. It really rocked me for quite some time until I did some study with the doctors, and they tended to think that he was suffering from massive narcissism, which is the only reason I could even understand why he would be so ruthless, cruel, horrible, not only to me, but my girls, and their career. You know, here's a guy, and it was about money. It's ridiculous. He was, you know, take $20 and chip someone, and he's worth $300 million at that time. Him and Judy, privately. You see, they're not on social media. They don't want to be, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that have gone on. And right now, they tend to be hiding. And after the last little episode that ended up on the front page of the bulletin with the Hembro name being tarnished by him, that's another reason why I'm falling and pushing through to Christian Conciliation again, because it has to stop. I have no problem with any of it. I'm just taking care of business.